So let me just give a basic introduction on today's session. What are we discussing about? So sports law is a growing field that brings together law, sports, business, governance, and policy. From athlete contracts in sports governance to intellectual property, dispute resolution, and sports integrity, law plays an increasingly important role in the sporting world. So, today's session will give us an opportunity to understand this fascinating field from the perspective of an experienced sports law academic and professional. So, before we start, let me just give you a basic introduction about collective counsel. The Collective Counsel is a professional learning and mentorship platform that aims to bridge the gap between legal education and practical legal experience. It provides law students and young legal professionals with opportunities such as webinars with experienced legal professionals, internship opportunities, practical job stimulations, skill-based learnings through the accelerated programs, and one-on-one mentorship and career guidance. Through these initiatives, the Collective Counsel aims to help students gain practical exposure and build confidence and make informed decisions about their legal career. Now, let me introduce the speaker of today's session. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's session, Dr. Subhrajit Chanda sir. Dr. Subhrajit Chanda sir is an assistant professor and assistant director at the Center for Sports Law, Business and Governance at Jindal Global Law School, OP Jindal University. Sir is recognized as India's first PhD holder in comprehensive sports law and has also served as United Kingdom sports delegate in 2025. Sir currently serves as visiting professor at National Law University, Delhi, and is the faculty coordinator of the Jindal Society for International Sports Law. Sir is also the managing editor of the Journal of Sports Law, Policy and Governance, and the founder and editor-in-chief of the Global Sports Policy Review. He is the Indian ambassador for ISDE Law Business School, Spain. With Sir's extensive academic, professional, and international experience in sports law, we are truly honored to have him with us today. On behalf of the Collective Counsel, we extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Dr. Subhrajit Chanda, sir, we are delighted to have you with us today. With that, I invite you to lead us into today's session, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dikshita, and thank you everyone for joining today. And first of all, happy Independence Day to everyone. And let me first tell you that the Collective Counsel has taken a wonderful initiative, so which will be helpful to many people who want to pursue other law subjects which they don't have in the university or they don't have elective. So I really appreciate that. And not wasting much of our time, so this is a 1 hour of session. It's already been 7:39 now. And let's start the session. And before starting, let me first share with you guys the PPT. I believe it is visible to you guys. And
yes, sir.
Perfect. And you guys can it's properly visible. You guys can see what is there, right? Thank you, everyone. So before going for the subject of sports law, so we need to understand what is specifically is about the sports, right? So from where this definition, sports law is coming out. Because whenever people talk about sports law, people will ask any person what is sports law. They will say you it's something known as lex sportiva, right? But for us, who went for other places and all, we have experience. We don't consider lex sportiva as a term of sports law. Rather, we say this is something changing the Latin term into English. And why I'm saying this? So if you look around the word sports, the derivation of the word is coming from two different dimensions. One which normally followed into a European side, the continent side, which we otherwise call the civil law, the continental law. There, if you find out the word disporto, which means to carrying away, one pupil is saying, this is from where the word sports is coming from, right? And in other side, which specifically we call the United Kingdom as Ireland, there they are saying there is a word sporten, right? The word sporten that is the word which is later part came as a word of sports, right? And the meaning of that word is divert. And now if you look at the PPT, I mentioned one thing here. Here I mentioned that it's a medieval period and it's an English derived from French determined Middle English verb. So when I talk about this, why there are two languages, people need to understand here. Like this is a medieval period from where the word Sputan is coming from. And when I talk about this concept, so people there, actually the elite class, they were using the monarch, they were using the word French. And whereas the commoners, they were using English. And as a result, the mixture of two language came on, and this is where the word spoken is. Right? And this is normally which we follow in the common law direction. So this is from where the word is deriving from. Now, if I ask you guys, what is sports? We are reading the law, we are going to read the law of the subject. You know that the 1 hour is like we normally take something around 80 to 120 hours to understand total sports law, and you will understand why is that. So, but coming towards this, and this is the first introductory part, we go around this. So we need to understand one thing. So from what this is what is sports? Like anyone from you guys can like, turn off your mic and you can just drop a message, anything in your Google chat. So what when I say sports, let's go for sports. What's the first thing comes in your mind? Anyone can speak about this. Yeah, Dhruv, like it does not need to put a hand, we just
So physical activity.
oh, so you said it's physical activity. So legal English in cricket. Yeah. Cricket is also which we say the physical extraction or a human activity. Right. And when I talk about this human activity, and this is the normal layman term which we come around. So now for some people it's a human activity. For some people it's a recreational activity. And for some person it's a mode of work. And when I talk about this mode of work, I'm talking specifically for the players, the athletes, right? So this is a normal daily life definition which you look around. It's a layman definition we look around. But when you look about the dynamic definition of sports, which is coming from the Western world, there they have derived this as an elite sports or professionalism. Then coming to amateur sports. So now first derive me what is this amateur and elite sports is about. So when I talk about the elite sports and the amateur sports, so this is where the professionalism and
The friendly sports.
friendly sports means you
Sir, in legal term, amateur means friendly.
legal you I haven't got your point like you were saying something. So when I talk about okay, let's come back to this. When I talk about this elite sports and amateur sports, basically we're talking about the professionalism where the players, cricketers, athletes who are they were representing our country or they represent our states, zonal, right? And in other case, the amateur sports, which you daily will be practiced around, right? And now amateur sports and elite sports has a connection. Like if you are doing good on that, obviously we're going for elite sports. But with that, specifically in the United Kingdom, they came out with a in that's also in the medieval period, they came out with another two definitions. They call it played sports and non-played sports. So the concept of played sports and non-played sports, when I talk about played sports, so they mention in that era, and they have derived that. They're saying like any sports where participation of player is there, then there is a proper ground, which a measurement of a ground is there, right? Whether it's a oval, whether it's rectangular, right? Whether it's circle, where you are practicing that, that will be using the term played sports. And then there are something known as non-played sports. So when I talk about the non-played sports, there they are giving the definition saying that any type of sports activity which are there, but that is not totally a sports, but we are using that for our leisure period of time. There is law or act related to sports law. Yeah, there are so many. We will commit to that part also. So the things like fishing, hunting, which you normally do in a leisure walk. Like in your leisure, after your work, leisure walk, you're doing here like work and you're going for pleasure and everything. That's type of activity where you don't have any particular types of area, right? So this is where the no players are there, but you are doing that for pleasure of what? For relaxation. If that is also considered sports, then we should consider that in a non-played sports. And with that came some very funny case law, which is the first case law which came in the UK, where they were saying like, is intimacy should be connected as a sports. And this happened in the case of R versus Brown in the year of 1993, and English report 75. You will find this. There were two partners. They were same gender partners. They asked this question: like, if you are saying physical extraction and pleasure, then why not the intimacy should be something which will be considered as a sports? Talking about this, the court said no. If you're considering for understanding the intimacy as a sports, you need to understand one thing: we cannot do that. The reason is there is another part in sports which we call rule of play. And when I talk about rule of play, that is something which we mention. It's coming on not just a minute. Yeah. So when I talk about rule of sports, there is something which is the result. There should be a certain result, and this result is unpredictable and uncertainty. Whichever sports you will look around, whether it's cricket, whether it's football, the result always goes according to unpredictable, right? And when I talk about so when I talk about this unpredictable and uncertainty, we're talking about the result. I hopefully believe my voice is now audible to everyone. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir. You're audible.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So when I talk about this unpredictable uncertainty, today you have, I don't know how many of you following the cricket, the Australia and Bangladesh, they are having a match. And when I talk about this cricket match, and obviously if you guys following this, you will understand that they're like, what is the result is about. No one thought that Bangladesh can defeat Australia or in the verge of defeat Australia. But this is happening because why? Because the result is always unpredictable and uncertainty. And second most important thing which comes in, it's about the equipments and the laws, which is say about everyone should be treated equally, which comes in the part of level of playing field. So when I talk about level of playing field, when it's come to the rule, yeah, rule should be same for everyone. But if you look at on the theoretical aspect, this makes things okay. Yeah, you are saying everyone have an equal rule and everyone should use the same types of equipments. But practically, sometimes we believe this is not possible. The reason is how much a country is spending, or the government of a country is spending on you, and how much you yourself have a capabilities. You will have a that type of equipment. Right? Everyone is using band, and now someone will be using SS, someone will be using DSC, someone will be using SG. Or someone into badminton, someone use Vector, someone use Yonex. Same goes for the football, like Nike, Adidas, and then we have Nivea also. But now the question is, if everyone is not using the same types of equipment, how can you maintain the level of playing fields? Still now, that's a question. And the last part comes about the compliance of external legal environment. And it's very easy to understand that. When I talk about the compliance of legal environment, there we need to understand one very important aspect. That is, when the federation is making law, or the organization or institution is making law, there in that case, it's not only the federation people they will be making this law. They will ask the experts there from other like other law firms or from the other institution to help them to make those laws, right? Because otherwise that will get into biasness, and it's always needed to be that. Even why I'm saying this, see, what you are using today in the sports, issuing in the field, sometimes the matters goes to the court for arbitration for sports, where the arbitration panel start around. And when I talk about the arbitration panel start around, in those matter, in those scenario, in those matter, we need to have an arbitrator to be working with you. The panel member is not only considered from the CAS panel member, there will be certain people who will be listening to this also, right? So that's the reason we need to have a different external environment body, right? So these are the fundamental character, and otherwise we can call it the rule of the play. But with this, there is other philosophical definition also. Yeah, we need to understand this all things. The philosophical thoughts, when I talk around here, which comes from the lawyer side itself, there are four philosophical thought. One given by Slasler, he is a English philosopher. He says sports is something where we have a religious view, and this religious view, he is saying something like a emotional attachment. Like we don't know how particular time, particular date when this particular religious has started, but we assumptions goes on there, right? And then we have our emotional attached with it. Same he is saying it goes with your sports also. We have an emotional attachment with each and every sport. Someone of you will like in cricket, someone of you like football, some of you like Formula One. And even it's happened to be that if someone is liking that particular, so we do have a particular club also, franchisee also, which you like. Many of you, I believe, will be liking Manchester United, because I'm saying this because in India we have much number of Manchester United fan, where in Southeast Asia we have large number of Manchester City fan. Now, if you ask the City fan to join United, they will never do that. Or if you ask a United fan to join City, they will never do that, because their emotional attachment and sentiment is attached with that particular club, and also goes with a particular sports. Then the Cochlear definition is about the physical extraction. He said, like, yeah, with emotional, we need to go for another step, which is like we have to do a physical activity. We need to have physical extraction, and without that physical extraction, we are not going to say that's a sports. Now, these two are the basic definition. Even we nowadays live in terms, we go mostly with the Cochlear's definition. And now, if you look at the Singer's definition, keep this definition in your mind, because we will understand why I'm talking about this definition. So now Singer, he is also a English jurist. He also defined, like, yeah, with this religious expectation and physical extraction, there's another thing which will come in here is about the historical background. Now, when I talk about the historical background, he is talking about the development of the governing setup or the institution or the organization. And even he is talking about some of the leagues or some of the matches which you look around should be having some historical background in it. And it's most probably it's true, right? Why I'm saying this? Because nowadays most, like, I can give you an example. I don't know how many of you follow the La Liga, which is a Spanish league. There we have a championship match goes on. In like La Liga and Spanish Liga match goes on, which we call El Clasico. I don't know how many of you know about this thing. Like, you guys can raise your hand up. Like, if you guys know about El Clasico. So it's a match between Madrid, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. And the question is how that started, how that club has started, how the institute has started. So the historical background says, like, when you look around those particular institutions, one is in a Catalonian side, and one is your Spanish side. The Real Madrid means Royal Madrid, right? The Real, it's a Spanish term, Real, which in English we call it Royal. Now, if you look around this two institutions coming together, so you know, like, what's going on inside Spain, like the fight between the Catalonian and the Spain government. So it started in from that era, which took from society to field, and they're representing two different scenarios. Even nowadays, if you look around the Spanish league clubs, which has a, wherever you see the red and yellow strip is there, mostly they denote the Catalonian side, right? Not only that, in cricket, I don't know how many have heard about the Ashes series, which normally played between England and Australia. Does anyone know about the Ashes series in cricket? legal, legal, you put your hands up, and you can like, what's your thought about the accessories? You can just speak up here. Why that's so important? Like, to why people follow that series? What's make that series so special?
Because they are like between England and Australia, and they are it for everything.
Right, England and Australia, they fought between, but how that started? That's also a question, right?
It was the first match, I guess.
The first match, right? So basically,
Yeah,
you are talking about that scenario when Australia was a colony of, till now they are like they're under the control of monarch. So what happened there was like the only convicts they used to be sent there, right? And they're the
yeah,
commoners. And cricket was actually that time a elite class game. Suddenly it came to the
yeah,
modern knowledge, like here, like this convicts, the commoners, they started to play practice cricket, and then they called them at England. They tried to play match against them, but they lost. English team are talking around there, they lost. And as the usual, like the spectators was very angry. And if you look around throughout the world, I believe most root fans and create hooliganism mostly are coming from the English side itself only. They burn the stumps and the bale and they burn it and then gifted it to the Queen. Still now the trophy you see this much is having that same ashes on it. And from this incident itself only two cricket institution has started, the Australian side and the English side. And still now we have seen that historical background, and then they started, and still now they are there. Evidently they are there, and then now the matches goes on. So this is what the Singer is talking about. And at the last, an American philosopher, he said sports should have another pillar, another principle in it, which is the concept of play and display. Basically, if someone is playing, if someone is showcasing their talent, their need of are spectators who will watch it, who will have look at it, and they will decide how good he is. And it goes to everyone. Like to nowadays, we know about Neeraj Chopra, Sunil Chetri, Virat Kohli. Today, I don't know how many have watched that the match which is going on, Indian versus Sri Lanka. Devdar Patidar. So let's say now just think before Devdar, this Patidar was into RC, like into IPL RCB. Someone need to give a tick, someone need to give a green mark to this his talent before also going for Karnataka. This is how they go. Oh, there is a guy, his name is Pandit, he's really playing well. He's playing well. This is where this accept of your spectators come around. Right? Without spectator, without the concept of display, sports is nothing. Right? Even with spectators' view, you will find out the social well-being also goes. And why I'm saying this social well-being means like the spectators also discuss the same thing with another spectator. And if you guys have watched match sitting on a like in a cafe, pub, or stadium, we have always seen like you don't know the next person sitting next to you. But if anything happens, if Virat Kohli gets out in 0 or in 10, we have a discussion on that. Right? Oh my god, Virat is out next to. This is what we call social well-being. And this is where the Stone's thought is coming around. Now, why I have given you this definition? If you look at the throughout the world definition, let me first take you through the European Sports Charter. Article 2 of European Sports Charter defines sports as all form of physical activity, which are casual and organized. So basically, they are saying casual and organized. Which they are saying about the amateur also, about elite, the professional sports also, right? And physical activity with physical extraction, they are talking around here. One of the philosophical pillar which you can see was given by Cochlear. And they are saying it's improving your physical fitness, mental well-being, right? So this is something like which I talked just now we talked about, which you practice in a laser period of your time, right? And they are talking about forming of social relationship or obtaining result at competition level. So when I talk about this social relationship, Another thought process you can come in, you can see here the concept of play and display, which was given by the Stone, the spectator thought, right? So this is what the European definition. So you can understand, like everywhere you go, they have the same definition. Even if you look around, the Canadian Sports Act 2000, which came in the year of 2000, they mention sports is any activity conducted outdoor or indoor or any type of aquatic popular games. Why they are giving this definition? So they're mixing everything. Like they're talking about nowadays when I talk about the non-plate definition, before we talk about the plate and the non-plate definition. Even some of the game which is customary in nature will be conducted into a non-plate definition. So they're mentioning that thing also, right? And then directly they talked about any activity which itself is coming around here is about the physical extraction again. And then they are talking about any type of Olympic discipline activities which will be coming state government notified. Obviously, in our constitution, which comes into the state list, the sports comes in the state list. That's also a different side. So this is where you will find out everywhere the basic definition of sports which are given with the philosophical thought, the dynamic definition. Everywhere you find the same thing. But when we go for our new definition, like the Act, the National Sports Governance Act of 2025, there came something like, which is I sometimes believe like is a extraction part of the same 2001 policy. If you thoroughly look around, you will also find the same thing. There in section 2, they have given definition of so many things like what is national sports body, what is national sports federation, which organization will promote specific sports, like merit-based scholarships and all, which is somewhere same you will find out in 2001 policy. But the things which is mostly made me a question about is there is no specific definition you will find out which has been definitely talking about sports. They are state for us saying, yeah, any sports discipline will be specifically by central government, specified by central government and have a notification with a specific region of state and whole of India will be considered as a sports. So basically they try to mix up everything mostly about the played sports and the non-played sports. Also, like if you look at the Australian thoughts also, there also you'll find out they're talking about the physical well-being. There also, like they have the thought process of your the philosophical definition of Stone and Cochlear there. But which is required in our act, which should be because it's an act which talk around of 2025 act is talking specifically for sports, came for sports. There we are having a little bit of loophole because we didn't very hurry, right? Because we have something in our view which is the 2036 Olympic and even the Commonwealth Games, so we need to have this act. So we came out with this act, but this is one thing which we need to rework, which somewhere I feel like. But now if you look around the evolution of sports and governance policy in India, there you will find out like after 1947, the first Asian Games happened in 1951, right? Then the first Asian Games happened, All India Council of Sports, they came out with 1982 our Asian Games happened. Now the thing which make us question, like make us turn, the first national sports policy, if you look here, I don't know how many of you can see this part, the national sports policy. It happened to be in the year of 1984. Now just think, you came out with the first Asian game in the year of 1951. Then in 1984, we have this act, which later in revised and amendment happened in the year of 2001, which is revised of that same act. Just think the era, the difference which has been there. Now the question is, why they came out with the first, why India after independence to came out with the first Asian Games? See, when I talk about sports law, there's the other side also come with this. In sports law, we have to also study about sports diplomacy. Many countries nowadays comes out the sports as a mode of a soft diplomacy. Even we tried this 1958, Pakistan first time came to India. Then Till 1999, we used to have a bilateral agreement, I mean, bilateral matches where we talk about other political agendas also. That this is something which we call the soft diplomacy. So the reason 1940s after 1915 Asian Games power, which is a post-independence power, and the soft diplomacy policy, the first Asian game came around. Even you see, like nowadays also, I don't know how many of you know that India is having certain sports diplomacy with certain countries. Like I can take an example of Afghanistan. Like the cricket development of Afghanistan is also getting held by BCCI. Even Japan cricket team is getting held by BCCI, whereas the Afghanistan Football Federation is getting held by All Indian Football Federation. So this is how the sports diplomacy work around, right? So talking about the sports diplomacy, yes, perfect. UAE team also. Even not only that, remember the IPL. I'm calling you legal eagle. Sorry, if you can tell me your name, please.
Amit Motwani.
Aman, Mr. So it's legal means you are being advocate, no? So I'm calling you Mr. I hope you don't mind on this.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Mr. Aman, if you also remember, like we move IPL in certain countries, like one of the example you have given UAE, and when you
Yeah,
are given, like, then we move to South Africa also.
South Africa also, yes.
So this is where the soft diplomacy using sports is coming out. Even if you study international trade law, there also we are studying GATS, General Agreement of Trade and Services. Now the four mode of service you look around there, that is also converted to sports, and through that also we are helping with which another from one country to another. If you guys remember, there is one diplomacy happened between US and China, which we call ping pong diplomacy. This is where the American table tennis player went to China. In the verge of that, they also had so many international diplomacy discussion with. Even the Australia bilateral treaty, their minister came here. We had so much discussion, and then we suddenly has a that energy deal with Australia, which Australia never said like they will send to any other country. So this is where the diplomacy is coming around, right? Even the program which you say like the Fit India movement or Khelo India program, that's also a part of a diplomacy. How? Because the one of the agenda of Khelo India program was to develop one of the sports which was kabaddi, and people never thought like this with the impact of kabaddi. The most like if you look around the sports diplomacy of India also, here also, and even Iran also was good in kabaddi. But the impact of India's kabaddi went to Southeast Asia. We never thought like people like from coming from Korea, suddenly we have a World Cup of kabaddi, and this is where the Khelo India program also came around. Not only that, remember the Fit India movement. He started the Yoga Day and all, showing us, showcasing the civilization. No doubt we have a case, and if you guys follow this Netflix, there is a yoga guru in US. He patented yoga. The funniest thing ever, and the government also given the American government also given the approval of that. And when this happened, India objected that this yoga is a culture. No one has invented this. And now the question is how we got the patent. So he said, like, I have introduced a new type of yoga which we call hot yoga. And why we calling it hot yoga? Because if people are sitting in 38-degree temperature house, a compact place where people are using doing yoga, which is next to like which we Indian normally don't do around. Even the yoga is we always sit in a cool place and all. So yoga is for us a mode of culture. Now everyone is following that. It's a mode of a sort diplomacy, right? So with sports law, we will be dealing with the sports diplomacy part also. Right? So I just told you that it's a vast thing. Now, and the 2025, we came out with a Sports Governance Act. And now we are working already. A proposal happened in the year of 2022 about esports. And now we are working for an esports act also. This is something new which is going to come here because in Olympics, this time in Olympic, esports is a part of Olympic Games. Now the question comes here, how sports included in our constitution? Now, when I talk about sports, of inclusion of sports in our constitution, that only done by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So when this constitution was in the formation, he has a thought that we should put that in our constitution, like we should put sports in our constitution. And the reason is, the main important reason is betting and gambling. See, always keep this thing in mind. One of the first sports which we see has been played was in 70,000 BC. It is in Ethiopia, the body contact game boxing. And then in 14,000 BC, we have seen first time like the football was the first ball game which was introduced, which has been introduced somewhere around in 14,000 BC, which is happened to be in Aztec civilization. Right. But the thing which is there in society from the beginning was gambling. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, even if you look around our Rig Ved, Manusmriti and all, like I have a research paper on this, which decoded the Public Gambling Act, which you see nowadays, was actually somewhere decoded from the old manuscripts which were there in India, like Manusmriti, Alasmriti is there, Vespati is there. This all thing is already mentioned. Later, it has got codified in the Public Gambling Act, and you can just go around like in my research papers and you'll find that. So talking about this, he said it's evidently proved that whenever the society has started, gambling has started. And the next thing which comes after gambling is betting. Now we need to put this in our constitution. Otherwise, if tomorrow these things happen, the things will get out of control. It does not have anything to control it. Like how the monarch used to have, they have a laws, written laws, and everything. So I think we should put this thing in our constitution. But there are Gandhian thoughts philosophers also, which the famous names you can find out here, which we talked about Professor Shivlal Saxena, Sri Lakshminarayan Sahu, then Sardar Hukum Singh. They are like, these all people have a different thought. They said like putting something directly in our constitution will put a black stigma in it. So we cannot do that. And you are putting a question towards the constitution. And when he given his, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar given his view and explained the reason he's wanted, then people say, no, let's do one thing. Put sports in state list. Right? And in that time, if you look around, that time 44 where the sports has been entered in state list, which is now 33. And 34 nowadays is your betting and gambling, which was in that time entry number 45. So this is how it came in our constitution. So talking about this, I have specified 1 hour of series, so I haven't got that part. I can tell you one thing, like when you talk about this is a governing system we're talking around here. So when I talk about this governance systems, there's another side. Every sports has a different governance system also, which we call the rightist thought process and which call the leftist thought process. Yeah, that is there also in sport, and we have to go according to that also. Governing policies were there. And when we compare that with different countries, we found out like the leftist countries are following the rightist thought process, and the rightist countries are following the leftist thought process, and there are certain countries that are following both. If you talk about India, in India, we talk about the both of the scenarios, right? But we don't have time that much, like so otherwise it could have been a 2 hours of lecture. And I know it's independent as you guys sitting here, like I know many of you have a plan also after this. So talking about this thing, we need to understand from where this rule and structure of sports is coming around. See, first rule which you look around is actually given by Celts when they took over Britain. And they developed this rule something around 1000 BC. And when I'm talking about this 1000 BC concept, see, this is they're talking about the prize money, right? And there is no safety rule, regulation, no sports are having them. In boxing, I'm talking around here. So basically, me and Mr. Aman is having a boxing fight, recording on the basis of a time. Each one of us will get a prize money. So this is where something is rule and regulation talking around. Now, and if you look around in Rome, they have developed the first rules regarding sports which are movable in nature. Movable means I'm talking about like In that time also, when you look around like the chariot race and all, they have a design like your weapons or your chariot shouldn't be more than this much of weight or shouldn't be this much of length. And you will find this type of same thing in Formula One also. I don't know how many of you follow Formula One. There also we have a rule like your car should be more than this much of length, your wheel should be more than this much of width. The same scenario is there, which is coming from that in the what the Roman did when they used to have these chariot games and all. But in the era of Elizabeth I, we have seen first like the monarch seal rule has been placed. And when I talk about the monarch stamp rule, like the charters I'm talking around here, the royal charters I'm talking around here, happened to stop betting and gambling. So you can say that Dr. Vivier Baker was not wrong. So what he said here, she said she came out with a rule. She said, and she was very like offense with the scenario which was going in her kingdom and with her king. I mean that she was queen means that is most of the people having a busy time, spending their time mostly playing gamblings. So she imposed a rule which says if any queen men found practicing of gambling, in that time she will find them pound 10 in mean of a land or goods. So this is one rule which came around here. And now if you look at the same country in the other corner, the northern corner of that, which we call Scotland nowadays, there they were sitting another queen, that is Queen Mary, the half sister of Queen Elizabeth. And so you just need to understand one thing here, the monarch of the English monarchs still are the Protestants. Queen Mary was coming from a Catholic woman, right? Half sister. The father was same, the mom was different, the half sister. She is actually Catholic. Like now the fight started like how can she rule? Like I'm mentioning it in short. How can she rule the Scotland? So obviously Queen Elizabeth attacked them. And whenever the Protestant took over that society, that Scotland, they came a mixture of Catholic and a Protestant group, a new society came up, which we call Putanism society. And according to them, anything which gives pleasure to your body except praying to the god should be straight away banned. And we should have one particular day for practicing worships. At that day, in that time, that day used to call as holy day, right? Later that is changed into holiday, right? The word holiday is actually coming from the word holy day. And now what happened was people were so disappointed with this decision, they start to revolt, object that. And how they objected that, they used to put mud in ball games like football, and they used to kick that inside churches, particularly in that time. So again, Queen came forward and she made a provident rule like anyone playing the game football, which was that time a mass favorite game, will be straight away giving a capital punishment. Even the people who will be giving shelter to these players will also be part of the same punishment and will be considered same as scenario. This is what the Putanism society thoughts coming around, right? After this came the which we call the modern days golden era, the Victorian age, right? The first thing she did after she took over the chair, she firstly she bet. The Elizabeth have stopped gambling, but here she stopped the hen fights and all. But with that, she came out with a new sports. She invented a new sport. They said that it's coming to the non-trade part. She invented a new sport which we call ratting, ratting. Can anyone guess which sports I'm like? What type of sports will be this one? This is like ratting, ratting. So ratting is that sports which she invented, where you have to catch hold of mice. And when you yes, mouse hunting. So basically, Europe was been going through so much of plagues and all. She came out with the sports mouse hunting, not hunting, to catch the mouse, put that in a bag. So every place have a queensman sitting there. You show that bag, he or she will counting that, how many mice you have, and on the basis of that, she will the queensman will give you the gold coin as a prize money. This is what she invented, and particularly in that time, we have seen a very important things came out with. That is, we came out with a proper system in the first game of body contact, which is called sports, which we talk around here, is boxing. What happened was like there was some scenario happened, like one person died, right? His name was Josh Stevenson, and those who follow English Premier League, this name is very familiar to them, Tottenham. Next to Tottenham, there is a Tottenham court where this incident happened. And then there was a person, his name was Jack Broughton. He came out with some safety laws of boxing, which was later been codified in the year of 1867 by Marrakesh of Queensway. And now this is the modern days, the boxing safety law, which you look around here, actually given by Marrakesh of Queensway in the year of 1867, right? And then in the year of 1880, because it was a mass favorite game, the first thing of hooliganism started as recorded history. She again, it was a mass game, right? She again legalized the game, football, right? And keep one thing in mind, nowadays football is much more different than the previous, like this era's football. That time, now we have 11 players. Do we have that time we had more than 20 players to be playing football in the field? So this is how the modern rule, the modern development, most development is coming around here, right? Now we are talking about so many things about sports, the philosophy, the rules, about the act. We have discussed what is difference between the act. But there's another funny case happened just after the R versus Brown case in the year of 1999. In the case of R versus Oxfordshire County Council. So if you guys visiting Europe, you will find out every city is having a green space and greenery there, where people will spending their pleasure time, people are practicing certain sports, people are having fun with their family, having picnics and all. Now, always keep one thing in mind, if it's art written in front in an English cases, it's we're talking about the respond where the mass people coming together and they ask, like, we want to have a judicial review about two sections. Which two sections we're talking around here? They are talking around here, like according to Common Registration Act, the section 13B and section 22 subclause 1 has given us something definition, like they're asking about the judicial review for this greenfield. And that is already mentioned, the court said this. Like, see, we are talking about the judicial review of this greenfield, what is the purpose of this greenfield, where you're sitting, you're having a pleasure time and all. So that is already mentioned in our Common Registration Act, which talk about this is a particular land where you can use for your local sports, or you can use it for your pastime. And also, if you look at the Common Registration Act in section 22 subclause 1, there also you'll find out like this is adopted for the recreational activity, or this is used for some customary rights, and which is lawful sports we're talking around here, or any sports you're practicing for last 20 years. So this is the purpose of this greenfield. The court has said, which was asked by this people, like what is the purpose of this greenfield? Why we have this innovation? Why we need for this? Now, after giving this definition, the funniest question ever came around is, so now in your act also you are mentioning the word sports, and we know the definition of sports, and now you guys also know the definition also. We know the this four philosophical definition also, on the basis of which the most of the definition throughout the world is being derived. Now give us, the people are, now give us a legal definition of sports. Do we have something which we consider as a legal definition, as a law language of sports? See, when you ask a sports lawyer, they will say lex sportiva. So now, lex sportiva is nothing like it's a changing from Latin term to this English term. Nothing more than that. But in this case, also court said, see, we have to go with the normal level definition or the philosophical thought definition which you look around here. As this is a subject matter to the society, and we don't have any specific legal definition for the context of sports. Still now we don't have any legal definition of sports, right? So we have to stay with those definition which has been there, like played sports, non-played sports, on the four philosophical view thought process, which we still look around here. But if you look around the international sports legal framework, as a sports lawyer ourselves, we say there are two particular definitions, like legal framework pillar. One is your lex olympica, the law of the Olympics, and second is your lex sportiva, which is a global sports jurisprudence. Right now, when I talk about lex olympica, there we have IOC charters and Olympic laws, which has been mentioned there. But when we talk about the lex sportiva, there we have all the federation laws like FIFA regulation, IOC rules, and the case laws which are there, which the law, the cases which are there, which change into a laws, the case law which we say. Then we change into rules. This is where the international sports legal framework is actually coming as an aspect of sports law. So, and what is the definition? Like, what is the difference between them? So, when I talk about the origin of lex sportiva in modern days, you need to understand lex sportiva is law of sports. That is coming from the case law, as I mentioned, and the sports federation rules. Like, if you take example of FIFA, keep one thing in mind, guys. Some important landmark. Yeah, we will be talking about some important landmark cases. There are many. So when I talk about this thing like sports federation rules, there we need to understand, like, if you look at the FIFA, 70% of the cases in cash goes with FIFA, 30% different sports. That's the reason FIFA also have a different dispute resolution body. So when I talk about IOC also, like, yeah, FIFA have a rule, like they have a separate merger acquisition law. They have separate contract laws for the players, which we call RSTP policy. And they have even image right laws also. Even they have a sports diplomacy laws also in FIFA. And most of the federation now trying to imposing the same thing between themselves, which we are seeing in FIFA. And then we look around the Lex Olympica. There we have Olympic related laws and IOC charters. When you look around the scope, there are broad application of global sports disputes. And here we will normally talk about the Olympic movements which you look around us. So basically, the nature is codified Olympic laws, Olympic norms are there, and in Lex Sportiva, still now, it's evolving in legal principles. So this is where the difference between both of them. Now, if you look around the governing structure of each and every sporting bodies, there will you find out that they follow something which you call pyramid structure, and this structure is coming from the Lisbon Treaty. Keep one thing in mind, guys. FIFA, then IOC, they all are following nowadays. Even the WADA also, they also follow this principle, right? This pyramid structure. But from Lisbon Treaty, we have two principles. One is this present governing structure, which we call the pyramid structure, and then we come up with something else, which we call the open league system. And what is the open league system? Because that we say like each club has a promotion and relegation systems, right? Those who follow, like, again, English Premier League, then Spanish Premier League. With that, we have something else in cricket also. In Ranji also, we have different division. And if you get promoted to different, and the last one get demoted to the lower divisions, right? So this is what we call the open league system. But with this, we have some another side in governing structure, which we have a closed system. This is where the American system is talking around. The American system will look. There we have NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, where players will be promoted. Like the athlete from university level they play, and from there they get promoted to the further leagues, into amateur, into the professional leagues, right? And they get their name drafted. But the club stays there. There is no promotion or relegations. Right? That is we call the closed league system. But before this, we used to follow the UN model of governance. And when I talk about the UN model of governance, basically United Nations will be in the top. Specifically, I talk about the UNESCO. They will be at the top. And then they will be looking at all the sports matter, where you will have a ministry of your state also, IOC also, CAS also, WADA also. And then IOC, WADA and CAS will look around the international federations, right? So this is somewhere the haphazard confusion will be going on. And that's the reason we changed that, and we have made a change that into a from UN model to our governing structure, which is the scrutiny body of pyramid structure, right? Now the question is, guys, why we are studying sports law? See, firstly, if you are studying sports law, we need to understand one thing. It's only about the scenario of fair play, justice, and equity in sports. And when I talk about in sports, it is something like we are going with the real world conflicts in contract, doping, rights, so many things are there, right? Human rights aspects are there, right? And when I talk about this, so you need to understand one thing, like what should we become after studying sports law? Because this is an introductory part, and I sometimes believe like the body will be like the organizer, they are going to soon have a proper education panel where they will see coming at the course of sports law, where we have been giving the proper direction of sports law, where we talk about the patent laws to the like the governing structure to the merger acquisition side, corporate side, so many things will be coming around here. So you can become arbitrator also, you can become a athlete representation also, you can become a governance body also, right? And that will help not only in India, because in India still we consider as a niche subject, but I am not more considering it as a niche subject because we are seeing so many works are going on now. And I have also given some of the example of that. So this is where the help of reforming the laws of India and the global sports policy, right? So this is why we need to study sports law. And if you look around the structure regarding the sports law, now the question sometimes we come around here is, why sports law? What is sports law? Is sports law is a law or not? See, for understanding sports law, you need to understand it's an intersection of so many laws. Like that tort laws are there, competition law is there, contract law is there, human right, arbitration, anti-doping. So many things are coming together, and then they are making sports law. Basically, it's a fundamental. Right? It's a fundamental of interdisciplinary. If someone can like, I have a word with someone, they're talking about the cats. Right? See, you need to understand one thing. People have always say like, what cats judgment has been given there. No other court can change that verdict, and they will not like even the international federation, they will not listen to the other objective also. With if other courts are giving what other courts are saying, right? Even UNHR, ECHR, they don't go with that. Why is this? Because they have always said the CAS will be in the top, and CAS is the deciding body in sports, which we call Court for Arbitration for Sports. Now there's only one court which can change the verdict of CAS. That is Switzerland, the Court of Switzerland, the Supreme Court of Switzerland. They can change that. Why? Because the CAS has been set up according to the Swiss Civil Code. And when I talk about Swiss Civil Code, this is where we talk about the private international law. So you can understand now the public international law and private international law are coming to us. Because so becoming a sports arbitrator and studying a sports law, it means like you have to study international arbitration also, then you have to study international laws, you have to study private international law also. So this is where the intersection is about. So this is an interdisciplinary. For understanding RSTP, you have to study. RSTP means regulatory statutory transfer of players. So you have to study the Contract Act. Indian Contract Act also work. But all the contract which you see happening in nowadays in All India Football Federation also are being considered by the RSTP. Right, so this is where is now the career opportunity. You can become a sports lawyer, an arbitrator. You can become a legal advisor to any sports federation or to athlete himself. You can work with Niti Aayog. You work with a right of analyst. You can deal with academic and researcher in sports law. Like you can become a professor also. That's like me. I used to work for Nottingham Forest. Then I joined here as a professor now, and I work with some of the federation aspects also. I'm working with like the report which you see in FICI and all. That's written by me. So Still, I'm working with the government, also helping them out. Also, not only with the institution also. This is how you do it. Of course, you can become an in-house counsel. And now, if you look around this is a graph which I have designed by getting some of the documents from here and there. So you can select the structure of India. So in India, we are having sports law in some of the university. For in our university, we have an elective where you can elect in a 5-year course, or is it 3 years LLB also about sports law. And this is where, like, you can see that the line is rising. Right now, people understand it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and that is why people are going for studying sports law, and it's an emerging career choice. Right? Of course, the conclusion is like sports law is I already mentioned dynamic field, like it's a interrelation, so many things. So actually learning so much for coming out this, and then you are dealing with the integrity and all. And India now we need to have a sports law. Like, why is that? Because you can see there are specifically some sports law firm you can see here, like Indus, Fideas, Law and K, Kshatriya Sports Law, Kriya Legal. They are specifically sports law, and there then the your guys' favorites like Cam, Sam, Khaitan, Fox and Mandal, TMT. They're also coming with the sports law team. So now you can understand how that emerged direction is about. Not only that, now they have their own online team also. Online gaming, they're dealing with the online gaming center. So you need to understand one thing. What you see, what you determine in the game, the sports law is something that is sports, but sports law is something which make those rules, and you can challenge that in the court, in the mode of a law. So that is what the sports law is about, right? So thank you. And now if you have some questions and all, I can see some many questions are there. So this is my LinkedIn. You can connect with that. And secondly, if you want to go with some of the articles around, you can go through some of my papers. Because why my papers? So I have, and the India's one of the Indian first one who have written that much, like the first Indian to having more than 100 citations. And my work, I will say, I have some different aspects, different thought process of sports, right? So this is where the scenario is. So thank you guys for like staying with me till 8:38. So now I have seen some questions coming around here. Sports law related international or national law. Yeah, there are so many things. Like sports itself is very, like, let me first start sharing on this. Yeah. Sports law itself are very international in its nature. You need to understand that. Because when I'm talking about sports law, it's not about only about the country's law. We have to get through with so many international aspects. Also, like, for example, like, I don't know, you guys know about this. The Australian, there's an Australian who's playing in Indian football team now. So there's a long direction of that thing came around, like international aspect, international lobbies. It went to AFC. AFC went to Australian Sports Federation. From there, the ministry came around. Then IOA and their Australian Olympic Federation, they talk about that, and that is how the scenario is coming around. Like, this is itself a question of international and national law, the private laws and the international law which you're seeing around. Okay, so now what I said, corporate law. Yeah, corporate law, the merger acquisition part actually comes on there. So that's very important thing nowadays. Many, for example, the Manchester United you see nowadays is actually not the old actual Manchester United. Right? The ownership change happened, takeover happened. Now the registration is number something different. Right? So normally when we see the name and the logo, from there we derive which is the actual club is not. Like, for example, I can give a very easy example for India. The Mohun Bagan which you see nowadays is actually not the actual Mohun Bagan which was there in the 1911 when they won the first shield. So this is how the corporate law aspect, not law, corporate aspect of merger acquisition, takeover comes around there. Even the competition aspects also. Some important landmark cases of sports. Of course, you have Bosman agreement is there, the Bosman law. You can look around this. Makkah Madinah ruling, which talks about the doping laws. Then we have the very famous Castor Semenya case, where we have a human right aspects. the International Olympic Committee, the International Olympic rule says anything naturally developed in your body, anything which is naturally developed in your body shouldn't need to be changed. Right now, Castor is a South African sprinter, and you guys can check around. This is a very important case and very wonderful case where her hormone secretion is higher than the other players of her group. Now, according to the Athlete Federation, what they said, they have banned Castor by saying that no, the hormone secretion which is in your body is higher than the other sports person in your group, and as a result, which is not considering under the scale of a female, so we'll consider you transgender. Many already consider him transgender, but she is not a transgender. Her hormone secretion is more than other. Even this happened with the case of Duti Chand also. You can check around the Duti Chand case. So Duti Chand, at the time of Duti Chand appealed at CAS, and CAS said, no, that's okay, Duti Chand's ban should be removed. So that's the reason she was shown in CAS like the same decision of that. And now when she mentioned that decision, like you already decided this case, but CAS said in that time, like no, that time we does not have that much of research paper. Now we have that, like we have a bundle of research paper which is already proving the higher hormone secretion, you can win this match. So now this thing, Olympic law says, which every federation need to follow, anything coming develop in your body naturally should be stopped. I mean, you does not need to use, like you does not need to go for a medication which is naturally coming in your body. Right? But for Castor, they are saying no, you need to make a change on that. So you can totally understand that what the question is about. And she also said, like, if you're asking me this for my natural phenomena, then why you're not asking Michael Phelps to cut down his limb? Because he is a great swimmer. The reason is his limbs. So these are some of the landmark cases you can go through. And mouse hunting, which Joshna said. Oh, yes, there is any other question? Sir, law is correcting. Sir, is voluntary non-field injury matters a lot in sports? Of course, it matters. Of course, it matters a lot. And there was a very funny incident happened in Oxford, in London itself. Like one lady was crossing a field, and then there was a cricket match was going on, and then it's like they said the ball hit to her the court, and she went to the court, and there she already been given imposed, like the player need to give certain amount of money to her, but later it found out like she intentionally got there. So these are some of the things. Sir, is there any law or act related to sports law? Yeah, I already discussed about the National Sports Governance Act. So that is the new act which came around here. And if you want to look around, you can go with the FIFA laws, IOC laws, which we discussed, which itself make a leg sportiva. So yeah, this. So if I have any question, no, we don't have any. So this is where, what do you feel about the ban of smart glasses for player, as happened during recent FIFA match? Do you feel smart glass and other AI to affect sports person in the future of sports? Who said this? Jayasri. So Jayasri, it's a wonderful question you asked her now. See, when you are talking about the smart glasses and all, so this is which we call enhancing, enhancing your performance through other meaning. And Jayasri, if you remember, in Tokyo Olympic, Nike came out with a shoe which we call super shoe. And why is that? Anyone who wear that shoe, they were getting an advantage. So that's the reason they banned that, right? Because it's giving enhancement. And see, enhancement is getting an enhancement in your result. It means doping. Doping does not mean taking drugs. Doping means using any external source in your body that enhance your performance. So this is an enhancement. So that's the reason they banned that. Not only this, there's a very funny incident happened. It's a case of UK, and it's a patent law case. So Speedo is a company who normally make aquatic gears, aquatic sports gears. So they came out with a swimsuit, and anywhere wear that swimsuit, the water will not get inside their body, and as a result, they will the inside of the body will stay dry. And swimming is that type of game where each and every muscles get vibrate. Now just think, a person who is totally wet, he, his or her muscle will vibrate differently, and the person who is totally dry from inside also, his or her muscle will be vibrate differently. And as a result, it has been seen that the athlete is getting an advantage. So that's the reason after getting the patent, they have to ban that. So because that's an enhancement. Nowadays, when you can guys can go through one of my interesting paper, which is about e-doping, the software mode of doping. Right. So these all are coming under enhance. Doping means enhance. So do you feel smart glass and other AI tool efficient? AI tools. Well, when it talks about AI tools, you have, so this is another side which coming here, Jaisri. And recently in month of July, I came out another research paper came in Taylor Francis. So I write a lot and I criticize a lot, right? As a sports lawyer, I sometimes believe like now I become a professor, which is a social informer, social scientist, I believe. So I write a lot. So the funniest thing I found out there that some of the clubs nowadays they are using AI as a mode of scouting players, cost cutting. They're not sending any scouts to scout players from the lower level, they're sending AI, a software, then they're analyzing that player. And as they're analyzing this player, they are creating a vast number of data. Even GDPR does not have anything which talk about that this what will happen this type of data. Who will be owner of this data? The other never Indian evidence, the old Indian Evidence Act, the new Evidence Act also has the same thing, which says that any document which is computer generated will be considered as evidence. Many lawyers are there, they'll be in same seat with me in this. So I said, like, if this is the scenario, and why should India can be the first country to look around this and make an external part of this? So talking about the who can be the owner of this type of data, right? And as a result of this, the future of sports you're talking around here, many identity are getting theft. Identity theft means what? Identity theft means that today data is generated by and it's open source. Let's say I am a batsman, I am a middle order batsman, and the source which I got about a good cricket player is from Eastern Zone, and which is somewhere near to my place, and our both playing style are same. And now it's actually happening. I put my low photos in there and this is my data and sending to some of these clubs and all. So this is actually happening through AI. So I talked about this. So you can go through that. So I'm talking this in this because it's already 8:40, guys. I'm really sorry for that. So unfair, like Joshna, can you just like unfair means if you, I don't know what you're talking about here. Where the collective council is talking about the certificate forms and all. So please, guys, if you have any more question, you can drop it to the corrective council or to the team. And thank you for being here. And I hopefully believe this is the introductory part. Soon you'll be joining with the actual course, which we're looking around, and you will understand the other side also of that, which is a vast thing where we will discuss this more precisely. And the collective council is doing a really good work on this, giving you guys an introductory so you can understand how each and every things work. So yeah, that's thank you for that's from my side. And obviously you
So,
guys can connect with me.
thank you, sir.
I
Thanks
received
a
that.
lot. So, as we come to the conclusion of today's session, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Subhajit Chanda, sir, for taking the time to be with us and for sharing his valuable knowledge, experience, and insights into the world of sports law. So, sir, today's discussion has given our participants not only an understanding of sports law as a field, but also a glimpse into the diverse academic, professional, and career opportunities it offers. So, thank you once again, sir, for such an insightful and engaging session. Before we conclude, we request everyone to kindly complete the feedback form that we'll be sharing in the chat. And your feedback is extremely valuable since it is designed so that we can design more meaningful sessions in the future. And now I request everyone to switch their cameras on for a quick snapshot. Can everybody please turn your cameras on to
This is
capture this?
something, Dikshita, this is something very tough thing you are asking about. So many of have already left. I don't think so. This is, you can ask anyone to on their camera, not only Independence Day, on weekend.
Okay, so thank you guys for being a part of today's session. We hope to see you again in the upcoming webinars as well. So have a pleasant evening and